Hey everyone, this is Ashish from Developer Hut and welcome to the next topic of Go for Beginner series, which is Go Struct. So struct is a short form for a structure. Now this structure is used to create the collection of data members which is of different data types into single variable. It is somewhat similar to arrays, but it is different than arrays. So we saw earlier in arrays is basically a single variable, right, which is used to store the multiple values with the same data type. However, in struct, it is not the same case. Now, structure can be useful to group the data together to create a single record. Now, we can also say struct is nothing but custom data type. Okay. So we already saw few other data types like int, we have float, and we have bool, right? Or we can say string. So these are predefined data type. However, struct is either we can say a custom data type or user defined data type. Okay, so this is how we can simply define the struct. Now, how to create the struct? So syntax is very simple. If you want to create the struct, you can simply say type keyword. Then you can say, and you have to give the structure name. So I will say struct name, and then another keyword which is the type of this. So which is struct. And in the parenthesis, you can mention the multiple member. So let's say member 1 and its data type. Okay, then member 2 and again its data type, and so on. You can add any number of members inside the struct. Now let's try to create very simple struct. So always create struct outside the function. Okay, so I will say very simple struct. Let's say I will say type and I will create a person. Okay, person struct, and I will say struct and then open and close curly brace. Let's add the data members. So I will say name, and which is of type string, right? Then I will say age, which is of type int. Then salary, which is of type, let's say again int. Okay, and say designation, and I will say string. Okay, so this is how we can create the struct. Now we have created the struct. Now let's use this struct. Okay, so we created the struct, but we have to create the variable of that struct. So let's create a variable. So I will use the var keyword, var, let's say p1, which is of type person. Okay, let's again create one more. I will say p2, which is of type person again. Okay, so this is how create the variable of the struct. Now let's assign the values to these variables. So how we can assign the values? By using the dot operator. So let's use the p1 and I will say name, and I will say equal to, let's say John. Okay, then p1 dot age, let's say 28, is a younger person. Then let's say p1 dot salary, let's say $20,000. Then p1 dot designation, and I will say developer. Okay, so this is how we assign the values to the struct variable. Now we will access all these values. So how to access the values? By using the same dot operator. Okay, so whenever you are using the variable at the left hand side, then value is assigned, and when you use at the right hand side, the value is accessed. Okay, so this is the case. Now let's try to print this. So I will say fmt dot printf, and here I will say name colon %v. Let's use the slash in as well, and here I will say p1 dot name. Okay, let me copy this. Okay, and I will simply say this is age, I will say age, right? Then I will say salary. Here I will say salary. Here I will say designation. Here I will say designation. Okay. Now let's try to run this program. I will say go run and struct.go. Okay, so we haven't used the P2. Let's comment this and let's try to run this again. Okay, I think there is issue with there is a typo mistake here, so I will just correct it. It's a person. Okay, and yeah, it should work now. So you can see the values of the struct is printed on the console. So this is how we can create the struct, right, and access the values. Now, as we already said, this is a custom or user defined data type. So you can also use this struct as a parameter to another function, right? So let's try to pass this struct as a parameter separately. So I will create one function. I will say func, I will say print person. Okay, this should be something like this, underscore function, and I will pass p1, which is person. Okay, and here we will simply print this. I will just simply copy this. I will copy and paste it here. Okay, and let's try to call this function here. So I will say print person and I will pass the p1 as a argument. So this is argument and this is the parameter. Now let's try to run this. So we got all the details printed on a console. So this is how we can use a struct as a parameter. So I hope you understand how we created the struct and then how we assign the values and how we can access the values, as well as how we can pass the struct as a parameter to the function. So I will also upload the related assignments on the GitHub repository. After this session, please try to complete those assignments by your own so that you can get more details and how to use this struct in Go. If you have any other questions, please add it in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and I will see you on the next one.